Right, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you. Right, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for your patience for assembling here. Right, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for your patience for assembling here today. So I'm BJ Harrington, Chief Constable of Essex, and I'm here to talk to you about events that have recently happened at the Bell Hotel in Epping. Before I do that, I just want to set out some clear issues here. Who's important to Essex, please? The communities of Epping, the communities of Essex, and the right for everybody there to go about their business lawfully and peacefully. Who's important to Essex, please? The communities of Epping, the communities of Essex, and the right for everybody there to go about their business lawfully and peacefully. Whether that's to express a view about something we agree with or disagree with, or what it's not about is allowing people to commit crime, to commit violence, or to disrupt those communities. So that's at the heart, peacefully. Whether that's to express a view about something we agree with or disagree with, or what it's not about is allowing people to commit crime, to commit violence, or to disrupt those communities. So that's at the heart of the Essex Police operation. Importantly, we police according to the law, as it is, not as people would want it to be. So it is clear and factual that people in this country, it's an important element in our democratic rights, that people can assemble peacefully and lawfully and to express their views, whether we agree with them or not. And that's an important point and one of the objectives for Essex Police in this matter.
Pour the amber nectar into an old jam jar and just call it something obscure.
There you go, mate. It's called Voodoo Jazz Hat.
Foster's. Good call.
In this matter. I want to thank the people of Epping. I want to thank the people of Essex. I also want to thank all those who have turned up to protest and express their views peacefully and lawfully, because there have been many of those. I've seen the people of Epping. I want to thank the people of Essex. I also want to thank all those who have turned up to protest and express their views peacefully and lawfully, because there have been many of those. I've seen the pictures, I've read the commentaries in the newspapers that have been made to many of you about people who feel firmly about an issue that concerns them and have expressed that well, peacefully, to make their views properly known. What has been unacceptable has been the people who have come to Epping and committed violence, who have attacked people who work at the hotel, who have attacked officers, who have damaged property, and who have caused fear and disruption to the people of Epping. That is not tolerable. It will not be tolerated. And to that end, we have made 10 arrests. A number of those people have been charged. A number of those people have been remanded in custody for serious offences. And my thanks go to the Crown Prosecution Service, who have assisted us in bringing those prosecutions. I also want to be clear that where people commit other crimes, and you will have noted that this issue started with a crime committed by a resident at the Bell Hotel, and where people in these residences commit crime, we'll deal with that as well. And in that particular case, I want that this issue started with a crime committed by a resident at the Bell Hotel, and where people in these residences commit crime, we'll deal with that as well. And in that particular case, I want that this issue started with a crime committed by a resident at the Bell Hotel, and where people in these residences commit crime, we'll deal with that as well. And in that particular case, I want to stress and remind people that within 2 hours, police responded. We arrested, we have charged, and we have remanded an individual for that alleged assault by a schoolgirl, and they remain awaiting trial. So we are being absolutely impartial, policing according to the law, and making sure we enforce the law and try to protect communities. That is the approach that Essex Police will take. It's the approach that Essex Police continue to take, and will continue to take as further demonstrations, which we know are being advertised and discussed in the media for the coming week. I also want to be really clear. This is not for Essex Police to make a judgment about asylum or immigration policy. That is for government, it is for Essex Police and the police more generally to make sure that people can go about their rights and their business lawfully. Whether that's to be part of a community, the businesses of Epping, for example, the people of Essex, the school nearby, or indeed the people who are residents in that centre. It is not for me or my officers to try and make up policy or to be partial in the back of a police van. It is for us to enforce the law, to act within the law, and I think our actions and the bravery and the commitment of the officers, some of which have been injured, has shown that, and we will continue to do that. I also want to thank our partners, whether that's Epping Forest District Council and the many other partners from emergency services, the CPS and others, because whether it has been this asylum hotel or other asylum accommodation across Essex, and indeed I know this is the same for officers and forces across the country, we continue to work with the authorities, the Home Office and local partners to make sure that people can live their lives safely, that people are not harmed. That is our priority decision, to make sure that people do not get hurt, and the crimes where they're committed are dealt with and they're prevented. So we continue to do that, and we'll continue to do that, working with all the different communities, whoever they are. I also want to pick up an issue about information, and thank you. You are the responsible press. You come here together to hear the facts from Essex Police about the policing operation. Okay, I would encourage people who are on social media or in the media to comment responsibly. And that's not me seeking to limit people's views, but to ensure that where people do make comments, those comments have real world consequences. To the communities of Essex, which are at the forefront of our minds, to the officers and staff that have to police these operations. And they do sometimes give licence to those who would seek to cause harm, to commit crime, and to hurt the very communities that the police and Essex Police seek to protect. So please, if you need information about this operation, the policing operation, speak to us, please. We will be clear in our commitment to give information, whether it's to the local community, working with our strategic coordinating group, our group of local partners, who are working together to make sure we understand and listen and can deal with any of the issues from local people and businesses, or to us directly in policing about the policing operation. So please, this information is not me seeking to limit people's views. It is making sure that those things that are said do not undermine the safety of the people who are lawfully and peacefully protesting, for the people of Epping, and indeed the officers and the staff that are there as part of this operation. So going forward, we know there are a couple of protests that are advertised. We have a robust, and I stress robust, policing operation in place. You will have seen the arrest we've made, you'll have seen the footage about the officers, and I want to make it really clear. If you come to protest peacefully and lawfully, then we will allow people to do that. It is their democratic right, it is their legal right. If you come here and commit crime, we will deal with that robustly, working with our partners, we will gather the evidence, and we will bring prosecutions, because that is in nobody's interest, for people to get hurt, or to limit people's freedom of speech through violence. The operation is clear, you will see that through the coming weeks, and I'll ask people to respect that. So in summary, can I just say, it's about communities, it's about protecting communities, whoever they are. It's about operating within the law, it's about dealing with facts. Can I just say, it's about communities, it's about protecting communities, whoever they are. It's about operating within the law, it's about dealing with facts and making sure Essex Police does the job it needs to do, which is to prevent crime, reduce crime. And I want to stress that every single officer that is on this protest that has to deal with the thugs and vandals is an officer that is not otherwise protecting the community from a sex crime or a burglary or antisocial behaviour. So please, again, my appeal to the people of Essex and particularly Epping, anyone who comes to protest, please think about that. Keep within the law, help us to do our job, and make sure everyone can express their rights, their views safely and peacefully, because that's an important part of this. Thank you.
Tom Palmer from Sky News. Do you accept that your officers have given a high level of protection to one side of the demonstration? And do you also accept that... Tom Palmer from Sky News. Do you accept that your officers have given a high level of protection to one side of the demonstration? And do you also accept that in the accusation being made today that those officers' actions caused some of the violence?
No, I don't accept that. The only...
Tom Palmer from Sky News. Do you accept that your officers have given a high level of protection to one side of the demonstration? And do you also accept that the accusation being made today that those officers' actions caused some of the violence?
No, I don't accept that. The only protection that officers are doing is to those lawful and law-abiding people, whether they're in that accommodation, whether they're people of Epping, or whether they are people who are standing there, as I've seen you, footage standing there, with placards and banners wishing to make a very important and legitimate view, whichever your views about it. Where officers have intervened, that has because there has been disorder, there has been threats, or there has been the fear and concern to those threats. And as I said at the beginning, that's exactly what policing will do, and we will step forward to do that. We're not being partial in any way, shape, or form. If you're here to protest peacefully and lawfully, we will allow you. It's not giving permission. You are exercising your legitimate rights. When you break the law, that's where we're going to be.
If you're not apologising, are you going to follow the demands of some politicians in this country who have called you to resign over this?
No, I'm not going to do that. This is not about me. This is about the communities of Essex. It's what I spoke about earlier. The communities that are disrupted, the legitimate people who want to go and protest outside that hotel, and I make no observation about you of that. If they're peaceful and lawful, they want to express their views. That is their right, and it is important that within the laws of this country that Essex police allow that to take place. I come back to the point where people break the law, where they smash up police vans, where they assault workers in the hotel, where they are chasing people away. Those are the people that we will not tolerate, and we will deal with. And I think, and I hope you see from the 10 arrests we've made, that's exactly what we have done.
What are the consequences of those kind of calls in this kind of situation?
I don't understand the question.
What calls for you to resign over the actions of your
I
officers?
think the issue is not about my resignation. The issue is about an effective police operation that keeps the communities of Epping safe. The communities.
Calls in this kind of situation?
I don't understand the question.
What calls for you to resign over the actions of your
I
officers?
think the issue is not about my resignation. The issue is about an effective police operation that keeps the communities of Epping safe, the communities of Essex safe, allows people to go about their lawful rights and prevents and detects crime. That's what that issue is about.
Tom, I think let's give everyone a chance to thank you.
Why did your officers assault?
Missing teeth ruin your life. I know because I work with patients daily who have lost all or most of their teeth.
Somewhere involved in what appears to be a lack of peace demonstration.
Well, officers, people have got the right to turn up and protest where they're peaceful and lawful, and that is exactly what they'll do. People made their own way to this location, and we saw that, and we've seen the footage of my officers who were there. They had committed no crimes at that stage, and of course officers properly were monitoring those groups to ensure that there was no confrontation and disorder. That's what they do, that's what you see in many protests and demonstrations, and that's exactly what they do. And I want to stress, where people have clearly committed offences, we have intervened and we've made arrests, and the record of the courts and the people charged is clarity on that.
But isn't that tactic risk confrontation?
I'm not going to, every tactic and every intervention in a public order situation has pros and cons, has choices and consequences. I've got highly professional, highly trained, highly skilled commanders and officers on the ground. I'm not going to second guess their judgments. They're highly trained to do it. They need to react to the situation that they face, and I'm confident that from the arrest they've made, from the work that we've done, that they have done that in this occasion.
Just can you take one at a time to give the Chief a chance? I think there's one extra point there. I think there's a myth about police officers' roles with the van specifically, and I think Chief should address that.
Yeah, and I think that's a good prompt, Robin, so thank you. I mean, there have been some accusations that we drove people to the protest. That is not true. We have not driven anybody to that protest. People made their own way there, and of course one of the accusations and one of the things circulated is we did take people away for their safety, for the safety of everyone there, because it was the best operational thing to do to prevent violence, to diffuse the situation. We drove them away from a violent confrontation.
Chief, what do you say?
Where are you from? Just give your name.
What do you say to a leader of a national party who's furthering misinformation about what happened last Thursday?
Well, I repeat my appeal. It's not for me to silence or to try and to say to people what they should or shouldn't say. My appeal to people, whether they're the leader of a national party or just somebody who's got a comment to make, is please consider the consequences in the real world of your actions. Is what you are saying going to cause violence or make it work for the people of Epping, for the officers, the staff members at the hotel, the residents, or indeed the local community? That's what you've got to think about. It's not for me to try and sanction or to limit what they say. Of course, where people break the law and that there was a clear breach of law, we will investigate those matters.
And what do you say to parents in Epping who are taking their children out of the town this coming weekend in anticipation of further violence?
Well, I mean, that's the point I want to make around this. Is about the people of Epping first and foremost.
What do you say to those parents?
Well, I say to those parents, we'll have a robust policing operation. Essex is safe. You will have hundreds of officers on duty. We are working with local communities, with our local community groups, with our local authority. We've got local officers who are deployed even now and this week working with parents, working with communities to make sure that people can feel assured. I want the people of Epping to understand that it is exactly that concern, that disruption, that fear that is at the heart of what we're trying to achieve. If you remember, that's where I started this press conference.
Your colleague Stuart Hooper said, in terms of bringing people to the hotel, the police have a duty to facilitate free assembly. Of course, initially said that they didn't bring anyone to the hotel, but your colleague seems to suggest that had happened after footage emerged. Can you set the record straight then? Was Stuart wrong when he said that?
Under the law of this country, as it stands, people have the freedom to assembly and to freedom of speech.
So your officers did bring people towards the hotel?
Listen to my answer. That is there is a duty upon policing to allow people to exercise their right to assembly and protest. That's a right under the Human Rights Act. People came to that their own volition. They walked up to that protest in order to ensure that we understand the threat, manage and deal with the risks and the issues, as we did outside the hotel, as we did in the high street. We had officers there, and they would have walked alongside to make sure that they understand, can intervene and prevent and detect crime. That's what happened. That's what the photo showed, and that's what we did.
Was there no thought about keeping the groups further away from each other? It's well known these groups will confront each other and generate that hostility, which then leads to sparks of violence that has played out. Is that a regret from your force that you didn't keep them further apart?
It's not for me to comment and to try and criticise or indeed to examine that operation. We made 10 arrests. We have managed to ensure that those who were, as I said at the beginning, lawful and legitimate, were there peacefully protesting. There were many of those, many more of those. I want to stress that they were able to do that, and that's our priority around making sure that they can do that. And where people stepped across that line, where they committed and broke the law, they were arrested, and the court records will show they have been charged and some remanded, and that's the position we take around that.
Thank you. Next, away from this.
Do you think your comments about Mark reflecting responsibility? It sounds like a challenging effect to Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK, that he should perhaps reconsider any comments that he might make in future. Is that correct understanding?
No, not at all. I am just saying, from a policing perspective, it is not for me to silence or to try and mute any legitimate voice, elected or otherwise, in that. That is not the policing space. As I said at the beginning, my job is to make sure people are safe, the communities of Epping are safe, to prevent and detect crime, and to keep the King's peace. All I'm asking is for responsible reporting, responsible commentary, so that we don't make that job more difficult, because that has real-world consequences for the people of Epping, for the people in that hotel, for the communities that I am duty-bound to serve, and of course, importantly, to the officers. And that's what I'm asking for. I'm not saying anyone shouldn't submit their views. It is not for me to do that. I'm just asking people to be considerate.
Do migrant hotels place a pressure? Because you talked about in your briefing, you talked about the fact that your officers aren't able to deal with other crimes, they aren't able to deal with burglaries, support the people of Epping and Essex in other ways. Are you concerned that migrant hotels are drawing this particular hotel is drawing your officers into a policing operation that is diminishing the force's ability to deal with other crimes in the county?
What is drawing officers away from other crimes in the county is the irresponsible behaviour and the criminal behaviour of a significant but relatively small minority of people who come here and come to Epping to commit violence. That's what means we have to have hundreds of police officers there, not because a number of people, largely peaceful, come together to express it.
Are you going to join on forces, other forces over next week or so to support Essex Police?
Yes, policing across the country works together as we did last summer, working together to make sure it's not just about the communities of Epping and Essex, it's about the community of this country. And policing will, coordinate and join that way with the support of the government, make sure that we're able to go back to those points, protect communities, keep people safe, allow people to exercise those legitimate rights peacefully and lawfully. And of course, we work together.
How many extra officers?
I'm not going to get into the operational discussions around that. That's a matter of operational
Because
security.
my patient colleagues here, has a gentleman in front and a lady behind. Thank you. And if you've done it for yourself, thank you.
David Jackman from Epping Epping Forest. For the last two disturbances, protests, you introduced a first order at 10:30 p.m.
This is a message for parents who don't have life insurance. You know, for as little